It's time for Wild About Trial, where we break down some of the biggest news stories from around the country. And today we're joined by criminal defense attorney Misty Marris and former prosecutor Bob Bianchi. Thanks, guys, as always, for being here. Our first story involves former Bachelor star Chris Soules. Police say Soules left the scene after he allegedly rear-ended a tractor being driven by family friend Kenneth Mosher, who later died from his injuries. Soules is now charged with felony hit and run, but his defense team said he called 911 and waited for some personnel to arrive, so the case should be dismissed. Misty, let's start with you.
Chris, it's an absolute tragedy when somebody dies in a car accident, and of course they want somebody to be responsible. But these charges are bogus against Chris Soules. The reason being, he did stay at the scene. He called 911.
My name is Chris Soules. I rear-ended a guy on a tractor.
He attempted to resuscitate the victim.
Chris, do you know how to do CPR?
No, I don't.
Okay.
He waited for emergency personnel to arrive. He fulfilled his obligation under the statute.
Let's tell you what the statute says. It says that you must remain at the scene. And if you have to leave to get medical care or emergency, then you have to return. He didn't. And Chris, what he did was, as soon as the ambulances came, he fled. He ran away, got into an unknown car, which I think they're going to figure out what that is, went into his home, and then when police went to talk to him, all of a sudden he doesn't want to speak to the police. And let's not forget the fact he was found to have bought beer and alcohol earlier, and there was beer and alcohol found at the scene. So one has to ask the obvious question as a prosecutor, why would you have fled?
Bob, I do not see one piece of evidence other than open containers, maybe a violation of an open container law, but he hasn't even been charged with a DUI or driving while intoxicated.
He avoided a breathalyzer and a blood test.
He went to his home and he required the police to get a warrant in order to enter, which is his constitutional
That
right.
sounds suspicious.
Yeah, he runs away from the scene. The only guy to run away from the scene.
Bob, you know this better than anybody. When you don't have a breathalyzer test, when you don't have evidence of intoxication, you're making an assumption that that's the case. And there simply is no evidence.
I didn't make the assumption that he's under the influence because he deprived law enforcement of the opportunity because he left the scene for them to do those examinations.
And then they got
That's
a warrant.
The point.
Ultimately, what happens here, Misty?
I think we see the defense motion to dismiss granted by the court.
Prediction, Chris, here's what's going to happen. The prosecutor's going to go to his defense attorney after he does a thorough investigation and say, right now, the charges only carry a 5-year state prison sentence. If you want me to look further, if you want me to build a case for manslaughter, then that's what we're going to do. Choice is yours. Case resolves.
The next story involving another deadly accident, this one out of Palm Springs. Kristen Lee Lauer and her husband were in a horrific car accident where their 5-month-old daughter was thrown from the car and died. Shortly after the crash, the father, who was driving, was charged with murder and felony willful child cruelty because authorities say their daughter was not properly restrained when the car lost control. And now the mother is facing those same charges. Look, Bob, nobody says it's okay to have your kid in your lap while driving, but murder?
Yeah, Chris, I think people get concerned about what that term murder means. In California, there's 2 types of murder. First degree, second degree. First degree is the kind that we're used to. Intentional, premeditated purpose.
This wasn't intentional.
No, and they're not saying that. What they were saying is that they willfully put the child in harm's way, hence the murder charge.
We're not talking about taking a spin around the block with your baby in the car. They're out on a highway here going fast. It's a dangerous situation. Nothing good can come from having a 5-month-old in somebody's lap in a Porsche.
No doubt.
Nothing
but is
good.
It murder,
or any two-seater.
Is it murder? Let's talk about the jury pool, by the way. This woman, a GoFundMe was created for this family because of the loss of their child that raised tens of thousands of dollars. That's your jury pool.
Yeah.
What I would do in my closing is point to this mother, devastated over the loss of her child, clearly no intent to harm. I get child endangerment.
Can you imagine this? This is the message we send to the community. You can have an unbelted, unrestrained 5 minutes. They have a responsibility to the vulnerability of that child
being charged
to protect
with
that
murder.
child. And by the way, just to add a little more recklessness to it, let's speed a little bit too. You got to be kidding me. The rule of reason. I don't care about the GoFundMe page. I'll donate to her medical care.
I get it. I'm talking about a jury pool. I think you see this case. I think you see plea deals because obviously this is a tragedy. This is a tragic mistake, and you're going to see a plea bargain here. You're not going to see the 2 people convicted of murder when their child has been lost.
Misty, Bob, as always, thank you for your insights into these cases. Now, we want to hear from you.